My wristwatch is broken, my shoes are untied. Time is a-ticking, so is the tide. But I am not worried, things are what they are.
All right, guys, welcome back. It is the Built by Vitality podcast. I am Steve Pinkerton, and I'm sitting with my man,
Philip Lewis.
Yep. We get the head-on shot today, so now
Yes, it's just
you can
us
actually
today.
see that we are equal in size and stature.
Yep.
Today, we're going to talk about the Delta,
Airlines.
round 2 of COVID. All right? And I've over the last 18 months, I've really changed my tune on. I used to be careful and walk on eggshells, and I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And I thought to myself, that is ridiculous because I'm allowed to have my opinion. I'm allowed to run my business the way that I want to run it. And I shouldn't have to censor my thoughts on it. Just because you may not agree with my thoughts, you personally might not agree with my thoughts. That's okay. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to have that conversation.
We should be able to talk about it.
Yep. And that's the problem with what's going on with everything out there is now no one talks about anything because as soon as you say anything that is not, that could potentially have a other side to it, you get shut out. You get shunned. But today, guess what? The only person that can shut me off is me. Yep, you touch that button, I'll break your finger off.
10-4.
Just kidding. And listen, today we're just going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about what I think no one else is actually talking about that needs to be talked about. I think we're talking about obvious stuff that's just polarizing, that's divisive. It's all clickbait from the politicians and idiots on news, all news. Mm-hmm. They're all the same. They all want to win the popularity contest. And but I will not get into a debate about the vaccine. I've been clear from the beginning that I'm not for or against it. It's our choice. It's your choice. It's what you think is best for you and your family. That's it. Not some news anchor, not some politician. No, not the president. It is your choice. What you make the decision based on the information that's given to you, and that is your decision to assess the risk associated with that decision, and that's it. There is no debate about it. There is no debate about it. And where do I stand? Nobody will tell me what to do. Nobody. I am a grown man. I am an adult, and I can make my own decisions.
Yeah.
Now, that 60-second monologue, how can you take a different approach than that?
I don't know how.
How can you say the other side and say, oh, you know what? You know what? You're right, but in this case, I'm better at deciding what's best for you than yourself. Like, how do you make that case? Nope. So I'm going to try and I wrote quite a few notes down. And as Philip knows, I'm going to do my best not to get off the tangents that I usually take. He's been really good at keeping me on track and keeping my blood pressure, being able to be red on the machine. Yeah. You know, sometimes I get off. I'm so high.
Keep it in the red.
We're going to keep it in the red. So you would agree so far, you would agree that this,
I think it should be my decision.
Should be your decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shouldn't I have no right telling you and Jess, say, hey, your kids need to be wearing a mask. Y'all should wear them around each other. All y'all should go get vaccinated. I think that's what's best for and I'm going to make you do that, or I'm going to mess with your livelihood.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. I mean, that's y'all's choice.
And that's what we're going to get into. You know, I think there's probably 3 or 4 topics, 5 or 13, whatever. But the things that the news and the politicians aren't talking about that I think need to be discussed. They need to be, these conversations need to be had. And the reality is, the first one, we all need to understand the point of all of this is division. I mean, if we can't see that with our own eyes, I just don't know. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know who we're talking to or who's poisoning our brains. But think about it. Everything we saw on TV a year ago was all about race. Everything was this racial tension. And then when people started to be like, wait a second, the numbers don't make sense, the statistics don't add up to that. So then what they switched, and then it became masks. And then it was the masks versus the unmasked. Then it was the vaccine. And now it's, if you don't take the vaccine, you're an uneducated, ignorant, selfish, whatever. Those are the terms that are being thrown out there. And I think President Biden actually said that the pandemic is among the unvaccinated, and that's a tough thing to do because you're now labeling these two sides, and you're drawing a line in the sand. And now, instead of us having the right to me be vaccinated and you not be vaccinated, now it's, oh, you're not. So now there's this divide between us. Yeah. We're not allowed to have that different thought because we've been conditioned to think that you're a selfish human being because you didn't do it. And you know who's paying the price for this are our kids. When I was in high school, I can remember clearly, I couldn't tell you if my parents were Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah, you don't know any of that.
I didn't know any of that.
I had no clue they even voted or anything. I didn't know anything about it.
It just wasn't something I ever could care about, was politics. And now in these schools, you've got middle school kids, high school kids that are, very, very involved in picking a side, and they haven't had enough life experience to actually really decide what lines up with their views.
They're picking a side based off their favorite actor or actress or musician or rapper. They're like, oh, well, my favorite rapper is this, so I'm going to be this. He said this, so I believe this. They don't do it off of actual facts.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be getting involved. Teachers certainly should not be asking kids what their political views are. That's something that is going to be a really big hot button for me when we get back into school, because I saw that starting to happen last year with my middle schoolers. And
there's a story about it the other day where they interviewed them on the news and everything, a mom and her daughter. A teacher in the class was asking them all these certain questions about politics, what gender you identify as, and all these things, and said at the end, don't tell your parents we talked about this. This is just for class. Do not let them know. And the teacher, that come to find out, wasn't forced. It was told to the teacher to do that from a higher up, but it got out. The kids actually told their parents.
Yeah, these kids shouldn't be talking politics. They shouldn't be involved in politics. They should be worrying about who's going to get picked last for kickball.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what a 12-year-old boy or girl needs to be worried about.
Yeah.
Okay, they need to be worried about, hey, I wonder if I'll be able to hold hands with my boyfriend or girlfriend on the way to lunch.
Yeah,
that's
they need to enjoy childhood. Just
be a kid.
Yeah.
Be a kid, man. Come on. Don't ask kids, well, what do you think about the mask policy, and do you think you should be vaccinated? Come on.
Yeah.
What are we doing as parents? That's our job as parents, to protect our kids, and we are failing miserably if we allow this to happen. So that's the first thing is, all we're doing is dividing the country even further. Now, they couldn't do it. They tried very hard to do it racially, and that fizzled out, and now they're doing it through this COVID-19 thing. And do I think that this isn't a deadly pandemic? Absolutely, it's a deadly pandemic. Absolutely, it's terrible, the amount of people that are dying. But that does not change the fact that we live in a free country. Yeah. This is a democracy. We get to choose how and what we do with our bodies. And that goes into basic human rights. Here's the thing: equinox, soul cycle. They said, You will not come into our studios unless you're vaccinated. You will not train. You will not
work
be
there
a customer.
either.
You won't work without a vaccine. What about women that are pregnant or want to have a family? Can you fault these women for saying, "Man, I don't know if I don't know if I'm willing to risk, even if it's a small." Look, here's the bottom line. You had less than 0.5%, less than 0.25% of dying from COVID. Mm-hmm. I would say, and again, do I have the statistics to back this up? No, I do not. I'm making a generalization, but I would say very similar potential of that vaccine causing some side effects for your pregnancy, but yet those people aren't allowed to take that precaution because, the vaccine is so effective. I got it. Yeah. But what if we compared apples to apples and said the same prevalence of something going wrong with the vaccine is the same prevalence you have of dying from COVID. Yeah. It's that small, it's that minute. But at the same time, you've got the whole country shutting down because of this small percentage. But yet a pregnant woman or someone that wants to have a family can't make that decision based on those same statistics. That's a really tough thing for me to swallow. Yeah. And now you're talking about people's livelihoods. What about New York City? New York City says, hey, you will not go inside to dining restaurants. You will not go inside fitness centers without proof of vaccination.
Show your card, yeah.
You can't go to entertainment. And entertainment, whatever. Who cares? You're paying these overpriced artists to whatever. I could care less. What a joke of a thing that whole deal is. You got, it's crazy to me that the oppressed, everybody uses that oppressed tagline as they're sitting in their $50 million home driving their Lamborghinis around, but they're oppressed.
Yeah,
come on,
they're having problems.
Come on. So, I think that when you start going down this road of saying, now we're going to limit based on your freedom of choice what you can and can't do, that is that's crossing the line, in my opinion.
We're 100%. I was watching something earlier. You're 100% responsible for your results or your reaction to something, or you're responsible. Yep. It's very easy to externalize it on something else. Well, this happened to me because of COVID. Well, how is your eating? How is your sleep? What did you do everything you could to build your immune system to fight it as much as you could? And even then, some people, might not be able to. Yep. But in general, you're responsible. You can't put everything on everybody else and just let them fix it.
My thing is very simple. Maybe those that want to tell me what I should do with my body, cool. Why don't you come and get up with me at 5:00 in the morning? We'll go train. You eat what I eat. You don't drink. You
don't smoke.
Get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. You don't do drugs. And then if that's the case, then cool. Then you come do what I do. Because I've built my life around making sure that I've given myself every opportunity to be as healthy as I possibly can, and my family as healthy as we can. I don't need anything else. I am a healthy adult male who, if I get COVID, if I haven't already had it, I will take that risk of being able to fight it off, and I'll have natural immunity of it based on the antibodies that I come out of it with.
I think years, say 30, 40, 50 years ago, I think as a society, our immune systems were much stronger. I think year after year, it gets weaker and weaker. So something like COVID, it's found a more, weaker host. So it takes you out a little quicker. It puts people down and they freak out, but they're not going back to well, wait a minute, why is our society so much so weaker now? Why are their immune system so messed up? It's because people's working 78 hours a week. They're not
Stressed.
sleeping. They're smoking. This all that together.
And that's the issue is that's where it needs to be our individual choice. If you are somebody that's 50 pounds overweight and you're not willing to exercise, you're not willing to change your lifestyle choices, then you should take every precaution that you can, but do not punish me for that. Yeah. Don't punish me for those people's choices. That's their choice, not mine. And just like my choice, I get up in the morning and I train 5 days a week and I live as healthy as I possibly can. That's my choice. I don't enforce that on other people. Yeah. What am I going to do? Go to the grocery store and take the soda and chips and crappy food out of people's shopping cart?
That'd be a good video.
It's no different. Yeah. It's no different. These people want to tell me what I should be doing. Okay, fine.
You can't.
You want to tell me that I should do this? Then I'm going to go to the store and tell you what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Let me jump ahead. Spoiler alert. What do you think the number one leading cause of death in 2020 was?
It's got to be like a heart disease or like something internally.
Heart disease. Just under 700,000 people died of heart disease.
And that's not from COVID. That's from
not. Oh, believe me,
heart disease.
That is different. And don't even get me started on reporting and all the false reports that you've got floating around out there. But let's just keep it from the Journal of American Medicine that reported on this. What do you think the second one was?
Maybe cancer.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Just under 600,000. You want to know number 3 was?
What?
COVID. Okay, and look, a lot of people died from COVID. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, a lot of people, 345,000. But half of the COVID deaths compared to heart disease.
Oh yeah.
But everyone is up in arms. We're shutting down the economy, shutting down businesses, and no one is talking about, hey, maybe we should look at this. 2 times for every 1 COVID death, there's 2 people that died from heart disease. And maybe we can help some people by making some lifestyle suggestions. But
I'm telling you, man, in other countries, like say, I don't know, I'll just throw out a random thing, ketchup. You look at the ingredient list on ketchup here, say it's 20 things. You go to some countries, it have 6.
Yeah.
A lot of their stuff isn't allowed over there, but we don't change that.
And you want to know what's not included in these COVID numbers, the death numbers, is the mental health impact.
Oh yeah.
And I'm talking primarily kids, but I'm not just talking about kids. I'm talking about adults that lost everything.
Yeah. Business
owners that lost everything. I mean, you're putting these kids. I saw so many videos of kids getting those masks off at the end of last year and how excited they were to go to school with those masks off and be able to see people's faces and see people smile. And now
kids playing sports again and stuff, they're back to normal.
Now we're talking about putting these poor kids back in masks again. And I just think that is the most irresponsible thing to do to these young people. And how is the news going to play this? Watch. They're going to start talking about kids are going to be a large percentage of kids are now going to be being tracked to get the Delta variant, and that's how they're going to try and make this even more divisive. So comments like I'm making right now are going to be viewed as insensitive and selfish because those kids are now going to be the hosts and the carriers of this virus to other people, and I would argue that in the next 12 to 24 months, what you're going to find from a mental health perspective of these school-age kids is going to be, it's going to decimate the kids' population. I mean, it's just, you're going to have more kids on antidepressants. You're going to have more kids on medications, and they're going to have social interaction issues. They're going to have all kinds of problems.
Most of them don't interact socially anyway when they get out of school. They're on tablets, video games, TV. They don't interact socially. Now you take that away, and that's it.
And they've had a year of sitting at home in front of those tablets.
That's all they see.
That's what they're used to. So I went up north. I got some time off. I took Jess and the girls. We went up to Michigan, northern Michigan. And northern Michigan is, for 10 weeks out of the year, the most amazing place on the planet
for 10
weeks.
Yeah.
And then the other 42 weeks, it's pretty miserably cold and gray. But for those 10 days, you've got these businesses up there that legitimately their year is made or broke by those 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it's packed up there. And all I saw were businesses boarded up, closed, help wanted signs at every single store you walked past. Every single. We ate out one time. When we landed, we ate out at a great restaurant, one of the most popular restaurants in the little small beach town that I grew up in. And it took 2.5 hours to get food. Damn. And you just feel terrible for those people because there's nothing they can do. Yeah. And I'm not going to go back to there. Well, we're not going to go back again. I saw another guy that had opened up a barbecue place. It was the best barbecue I'd ever had. And he was the owner. In between cooking all the barbecue, he was doing dishes. He was running the till. He can't find anybody. Can't find anybody to work. And, yes, this is a terrible disease, but the second and third order effects of what we're doing and what we've done, what the government has done to these people is the damage is yet to be seen, because these guys have hung on and hung on and hung on as long as they can, and they're at their wits' end. So what do you think is going to happen after you make it through 14 or 16 months and then it crumbles apart? You think they're just going to be like, oh, you know what, just the way it goes, and then happily move on to something else? No, they're going to become alcoholics. They're going to become addicted to something that can take their mind off what they just went through.
That cause family issues. You lose your business. You're at home with your wife and kids all day.
Now you got
arguing.
Kids that can't, that don't have food on the table. Those kids are now, what's happening when dad comes home and he's lost everything and he's in a bad mood and starts drinking? Those kids, now child abuse goes up. It's already being reported. Child abuse is up something crazy like 350%. I should have looked at that number. I'll look at that number and we'll post it. But it's unbelievable. So yes, I think that the pandemic is very real, but it is not just black and white. And the people that are so loudly speaking about this are the ones that most likely aren't affected by it. They're sitting in government jobs, or they're sitting in jobs that they're secure in, and then they can speak their mind about all of us insensitive, uneducated, problems out there. And it's just, they need to get out and they need to understand that they need to look around and see what has happened to these small towns that have just been crushed by this. And now you're talking about these closures coming back again. Well, excuse me, Dr. Fauci, I'm sure you're a very smart guy, but last I checked, you're probably not being impacted by this very, very much. Yeah. You look at
the more it goes on, he probably gets more money.
You look at these politicians, and I don't care what color, red or blue, they're not affected by this at all.
No.
Okay? It's a popularity contest. That's all it is. And the sooner we realize that and we can start to make our own decisions and be given that right to the fact we're even talking about the possibility of having that right taken away is ridiculous. So, and I think the next thing we need to look at is, since when are we going to give the government the benefit of the doubt on them having our best interest at heart? I mean,
Yeah.
do we need to talk about what our healthcare system is? What you know? I'll ask some questions to you, and people are surprised that we're asking questions. I'm not saying that I think the vaccine is a bad thing. I'm just saying, how can we possibly be surprised that people are asking questions about whether that is the best solution for them? We're just going to take the government's, the government, Nancy Pelosi or whoever says this is the way we should do it, I'm going to do it.
I should go get a shot.
I want to do your own research, do your own critical thinking, and be independent about. Don't. It doesn't matter what your neighbor's doing. It doesn't matter what so-and-so's doing. It matters what you look up, what you're comfortable with. And let's look at this. In life expectancy, what do you think the U.S. is ranked among all the other countries?
I'm not sure, but I did hear that maybe it was last year, the year before, was like the first time in like 10 or 15 years it actually got lowered.
Yep.
Or something.
It did. You are correct. We are ranked 46th in the world among the countries that are life expectancy. 46th.
That's good.
So you're trying to tell me that the technology that we have and the healthcare system that were given to us, we're ranked 46th.
Yeah.
46th.
It's pretty
Not
bad.
really sure I want to be
No.
holding that number. So let's talk about this. What is our the medical field? What's their solution to everything? Medication?
Yeah, pills
Opioids?
and shots and
Okay.
whatever.
So the population of the U.S. makes up 5% of the world. I did not know that.
It's crazy.
5% of the world. That's what we make up.
It's hardly nothing.
We consume what percentage of the world's opioids?
Probably the most.
What do you think that number is?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the
God.
spot.
73%.
80%.
Man, I'm close.
You're pretty good.
Man, I'm good.
So 5% of the world population is in the U.S., and we consume, that 5% of the population consumes 80% of the opioids. Okay?
That's crazy.
We go to our doctors, the ones that we're supposed to trust our life with, our livelihood with, our kids with.
Tell them a whole year worth of stuff in 10 minutes for the next
10 minutes.
appointment comes.
You're out of
5
your
minutes.
mind.
Oh, yeah.
60 seconds, bro.
Yeah. Tell
60
them what's going
seconds.
on.
And all they hear is, boom, this medication is what you need. Oh, you're depressed? Let me give you this antidepressant. Oh, you've got some pain? Let me give you this.
Muscle relaxer.
Muscle relaxer,
yeah.
whatever it is. So you go to the doctor, we get 60 seconds. And then we're medicated. Mm-hmm. We consume, and I know people are thinking, oh, well, those opioids they probably include medications and things like that. No, they don't. Those are just opioids. The medications, we consume over 75% of the world's medication.
Yeah.
Our 5% of the population consumes over 75% of the world's medications. 66% of the U.S. is on at least one prescription drug. Mm-hmm. At least one. So, excuse me if I would like to question, maybe the government doesn't have our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe it's a stretch. Maybe they're more worried about making money than they are about keeping us healthy. Mm-hmm. I know that's going to be labeled a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm a conspiracy theorist because I'm just looking at numbers and saying, holy cow, we are not even remotely close to even in the top of the most healthy countries in the world.
Have you ever sat somewhere and people watched?
Yeah.
So
You
that's
know
one of
where I
my
went?
favorite. Where?
I went to the Iosco County Fair.
You start looking around.
And we looked
Oh, it's
around.
nuts, right? If you really sit there and people watch, pick somewhere, a Walmart, a grocery store, just look. Sit in your car, take 5 minutes next time you're there, and I want you to count how many people walk in and out of that place and how many of them are like, oh my God, their bellies are hanging out of their shirt, or oh my gosh, they're smoking, oh, he's smoking. Just watch it. It is insane.
And that's the point we're trying to make is we've got some problems with diabetes. We've got all kinds of heart disease problems, obviously, as it is the leading cause by a mile year after year, and it's only going up. I think it actually shot up more last year than the previous year. So
that's the diet Jess told me I was on when she asked me what I ate.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, you're on the high fat, high carb diet. We like to call that heart disease."
Yeah,
I said, "Thanks, Jess."
Yeah. But in you know what makes heart disease even worse, even more prevalent, is when you scare people day after day after day. I'm not saying by any stretch that that the symptoms aren't real, that these hospitalizations aren't legitimate at all. But what I'm saying is, when you get people worked up about something and all they hear about day after day is how deadly and dangerous this is, which it is deadly, people die from it, but understand the Delta variant is half as deadly as the
They're saying it's
COVID.
half, but it's more transmissible or something.
Yep, and I get that. And I get that. But when you start doing that to people, and you start telling people that, oh my gosh, you could die from this, it is not uncommon for people to manifest worse symptoms. It's not uncommon for them to get themselves worked up to the point where a common flu can get turned into something so much more because you're having a panic attack with it because you're so nervous about it. And I don't blame people for that. I blame the doctors. I blame these people on social media that are encouraging this fear.
We kind of know better, but it even affected me when I got COVID.
Yep.
I even know better, and
Yep.
it still affected me.
Yeah.
I got COVID where I didn't feel good. Went and got the test. It was positive. Did the whole quarantine thing. But as soon as I left where I got tested at, on the way home, multiple times in my head popped up, well, man, what if I got to underlook? What if I die from this?
Yep.
You automatically think, and I'm like, Philip, shut up.
Yeah.
You quit looking at Instagram. Just relax. Just quarantine. Get some rest. Fluids. Just chill out.
Yep.
But it's going to pop in your head. They make it worse.
And unfortunately, people that are negative, they surround themselves with negative people, and they allow this negativity to be around them all the time. And when you're around that, and you let people perpetuate this fear, it will impact how your body fights this thing off. I guarantee it. Stress, we've talked about stress and the impact that stress has on our overall health. What do you think happens when you get a flu-like symptom and then all of a sudden the news is saying, hey, deaths are up on the Delta variant, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And now all of a sudden a common flu turns into a flu with a panic attack, with anxiety, with all this stuff.
I mean, worse, you have a cold, and they're like, well, it has cold flu-like symptoms. You're like, oh, I got it. Oh my God, I'm dying.
Think
and you
about
start stressing yourself out.
How many people WebMD everything? Everybody WebMDs it.
I tried to figure out, I got this blood out front of my fingernail where you smashed it with the Dr. Squatch can. You thought I was kidding. You actually smashed my finger. And when I Googled how to get that out from under there, I had finger cancer.
Yeah.
I had all kind. I said, what in the world? I smashed my finger. Do not Google symptoms.
I know. And so you just got to be careful. I think there's a lot of people out there that are trying to monetize this thing. And, it's unfortunate. A lot of people like being in the limelight. They like being the one that people come to ask, advice on. And they just got to be careful. They got to be careful to perpetuate that fear cycle, that fear loop. The reality is we control our own destiny in most of these cases. If we're worried about this, I said a year ago, I thought this should be a wake-up call for people to take their health and make it a priority, and find time to implement some sort of activity, whether it's walking or eating better or sleeping more. those things are things that we can control. We cannot hope for these silver pills, these silver bullets that are going to come out every time there's a new variant of whatever. I mean, it's already been a year and we've got a second variant. Who's to say there's not going to be a third, a fourth, and a fifth? And
it's like the regular flu, right?
Yeah.
Ever since the flu's been around, it's always changing.
It's always a different strain, and I think we got to be careful that, am I immune to COVID? Absolutely not. I am not. I may get it again, or if I may get it, I'm sure I had it before, but maybe not, and I'll get it. But what I can do is give myself every chance I can to be able to fight it off, and that's what I want. And naturally, right. and that's what, and that should provide motivation for some people. Man, if you're sitting at home and you're a little overweight and you're maybe got some hypertension you're dealing with, then guess what? Hey, you control this. You decide that today's the day I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to turn off the news and I'm going to get on my running shoes and I'm going to go walk and I'm going to walk, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a dumbbell and I'm going to do some type of strength training with that. And then I'm going to find a facility that I can go to and surround myself with positive people, and plug myself into a positive, nurturing environment.
Before anybody would see this or comment or whatever, there's also people out there that are skinny fat. You've heard that, where you'll see people out and they look thin. They're like, oh, well, that person that died from COVID, they were thin. Yeah. That doesn't mean on the inside their body wasn't a mess from high blood pressure or their diet or their sleep. They're still... That doesn't, just cause it's not showing that you're overweight doesn't mean you're healthy on the inside.
You got to find something. You got to find something that excites you and gets you into some type of routine. And if we're not doing that, we really can't. We can't point our fingers. I'm not gonna. I can't tell you how many times I've, gotten the death stare or someone driving in their car. Pulls down their mask and cigarette to yell at me about not wearing a mask, and that type of behavior is all out there. Like, you've got people that are leading a very unhealthy life that are trying to tell other people how they should do it, and you can't do that.
Guy walking on the sidewalk when I was getting gas this week. Guy walking near the gas station, he had a book bag on, had his mask on, and I seen him holding something in the other hand, and I realized it was a cigarette. He would pull his mask outside walking, take a puff of the cigarette, pull his mask back up.
Yeah, and you know what? They have the right to do that.
Yeah.
But what they don't have the right to do is
tell me
how to do it and what to do with my life. So I think, from a business perspective, I'll end on this. I certainly will not make this a difficult thing for people. We're going to continue at Vitality to do all the things we've done over the last 18 months to control and make this a very safe environment. And we will give people the choice. If you, as we always have, if you feel the need that you would like to wear a mask in here, then do it. If you want to get vaccinated, do it. I'll never ask you. I will never tell you what you should or should not do. We will leave it up to your choice. And I strongly believe that being a part of a positive environment, a positive community, is almost as important, if not more, than anything else we can go and try and put in our body to make us more immune to this virus. I think that is the key. The key is having a healthy outlet, and Vitality will continue to do that. We'll continue to be that healthy outlet, and I don't see how I can ever change my stance on that. And if there's somebody out there that's legitimately angry listening to this podcast, man, I don't know what to tell you other than it's my opinion and I have that right, just like you have your right. But if it genuinely makes you angry, then the best thing for you is to probably hit the old unsubscribe button and and I've saved you $185 because you won't want to come to this gym, because we treat people like adults, and we treat people like they have the ability to make their own decisions. And if that's not something you want to do, then yeah, you certainly do not want to get involved. But I think that this is I think these are the conversations that we need to have, and I think the more people can realize that they have this choice, the better they're going to be. And so, yeah, I hope, I don't know, I guess this was more therapeutic for me and Philip than it was for anybody else, but I hope you can look at this and say, at least ask the questions, at least do the research. It doesn't take but anything to Google and look at the John Hopkins study or the Journal of American Medicine, which is I got a lot of these statistics from. Those are, you can't argue those stats. So do your own research. Don't just listen to somebody that's a eloquent speaker. I'm not a great speaker by any stretch, but there's a lot of people out there that will have a convincing. They use big words that make them sound smart, but the reality is it doesn't make sense when you peel back the onion. So think for yourself. We're all capable of that, and get out of this, pack mentality of I'm just going to do what everybody else does because that's what the easiest way to do it is. So, what you got anything to close out on, Philip?
No, I kind of going back to the gym thing where you're talking about Soul Cycle and the other place where they're making everything mandatory. Just imagine if it was flip-flopped and they made it mandatory for members, said, hey, every morning when you wake up, you got to send me a screenshot of how much sleep you got.
Yeah.
If you got less than 6 hours, you're not allowed to come in today.
Yeah.
Or they said, hey, send me a screenshot of your meals today. If anything was what you shouldn't be eating or putting in your body, you're not allowed to work out. They just flipped it.
Yeah.
Instead of getting a shot. It's crazy that to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you take this approach from heart disease and say, gosh, 2 times as many people died from heart disease last year, what if we did some crazy stuff about
like that,
eliminating some of the garbage that's in our grocery stores?
You had to prove it to go somewhere. Yeah. You had to prove it. Like you couldn't check out at the grocery store if you had junk in your cart.
Yeah, I think that there's some, and there'll be people that are laughing right now saying, oh, this is crazy. What a dumb idea, and I get it. But the reality is, here we are, the impact that COVID has had, but yet year over year over year, the number one cause of death is heart disease, and really as the physicians, the medical field, the government is really taking no action to fix that. No. Give me 3 or 4 things that the government or our healthcare system is providing for people to try and fix that number.
Besides a patch or a Band-Aid, like a pill or something.
The pills are the last thing, and that's my point. You can't give me one thing that they're doing, and but those same doctors are the ones that are getting paid by these pharmaceutical companies to keep those prescriptions coming and keep paying $1,000 a refill. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm hoping that in the next 3 or 4 months, we're at a different spot. But if not, we'll continue to give our take on it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.